And I'll start, of course, with our lady here in the middle. Cécile Dahomé is with Sevea. It's a very specific consulting group based in Cambodia, but working around the region, including in, I think, Nepal, Myanmar, Cambodia, of course, and she worked with us in the Philippines. They work with social enterprises and with impact funds that are supporting these enterprises to really make a bridge between capital and the organization's readiness to deploy that capital. We also have, from the capital side, we have with Uberis, is that the correct pronunciation? Uberis is an impact investment fund. We have Cécile Dahomé, who has been making impact investments in the space. And also from Cambodia, we have Dennis with SNV from the Netherlands, who have been doing work on developing the off-grid solar market in Cambodia. So really looking at it from an overall perspective. It's a big topic, and so to help us along, I think we're going to start with a small presentation, first by Cecile, to lay out some of the ways that we think about financing the sector. So I'll turn it over to you, Cecile.
Hello. Hello everyone. So my name is Cecile. Because it's a bit late, I'm gonna try to be short and straight to the point, and I'll let a bit more time for Dennis to explain a really, really interesting program that is currently running in Cambodia. So I think the first point, we are talking about off-grid solar. There are four kinds of actors in the off-grid solar. You have all that is linked to manufacturing, you have distribution and retailers, and you have all that is linked with consumer and user financing, which is a very interesting topic we'll be talking about. One point that is interesting is that from a study that was done in 2014, it comes out that only 40% of the companies that are in this sector are currently profitable. This leaves space for a lot of improvement. So the industry as a whole is between early stage and growth stage, and the growth rate of this industry could be much, much higher if you had the appropriate financing. One interesting topic is to compare from firm perspective and investor perspective, what are the current market barriers. You have one that is in common for both, which is access to finance. For the firms, you have policy issues, currency risk, market spoilage. We talked a bit about this earlier in the afternoon, linked to donor programs that just give out solar products without real maintenance after sales service and this. On the investor, you have the two main topics that are coming forward are distribution challenges and lack of after-sales services. In terms of capital requirement, I'm going to focus on distribution. Why? Because they are the ones that need financing both for the upstream and the downstream. They need to finance orders, and they need to finance products that are going to be distributed, and end user financing. So they are really, for now, the key part and the bottleneck of this industry. And the problem is that distribution, as it is done now, cannot be really, really cost effective because it's supply and distribution that is highly fragmented. So cost economies of scales are really hard to gain. So just on this slide, just taking a bit moment to understand a typical situation. We have a small product distributor which has 10 regional distribution centers, let's say. Each one of them is selling around I don't know, 20 solar home system per month, which make 100,000 USD revenue. So this is typical situation. What does this company requires? It requires first working capital. It needs to pass orders, and it needs to finance these orders. It needs to continuously pay for this after-sale service, and it needs to raise funds. What needs to be understood is that these small companies, usually they are being grown by the co-founders, and these founders, they need to choose and select between spending time to raise funds, which takes huge amount of time. It can take up to 1 year just to close a deal, and add to that 6 months to finally get the money. It takes a year and a half for a small company to get access to finance, so it's quite long. And developing business. So this is working capital, and when we talk about working capital, if you add it with end user financing, it makes around 1 to 2 million that a small company needs to raise. This raises a lot of issues because we're talking about a small company that makes 100,000 revenue per branch. Talking about 1 or 2 million, how are they going to manage this? Do they have the internal capacity? Do they have the accounting system? Do they have resources? Usually they don't. So the second type of financing that they need is soft financing. Why I'm calling that soft is because usually it comes from grant or it comes from competitions and things like this to finance activities that you cannot expect any return out of it. Where are you going to get any financial return from awareness raising or training or activities such as this? And when you talk about a market that is being developed, you need to do these kind of activities. For other industries that were grown, institutional financing came to do this market development. It's exactly the same as solar, and for now it's the private sector that is mostly taking this kind of activities in charge. Then you have all the growth capital that I mentioned. If you want to scale up, it means that you need to increase your distribution channel, which are very cost intensive. Setting up new places usually in the middle of nowhere. How do you get the people trained there? How do you keep them there? And how do you put in place all the monitoring, governance, training, as I said, accounting in place? This requires, usually it's equity. So out of 10 to 20%, 10 to 12% of the amount that I was mentioning previously. And the last part is end user financing. More than 50% of the end users cannot afford solar home system straight away. And when I'm saying 50%, I'm really optimistic. So it means that you need huge amount of financing for end user financing. Critical observations that comes from what we've seen out there. On the investor side, what they ask is short periods of turnaround, short-term exit, huge ticket size. Once they have invested, they want a base of scale that is sometimes completely different from what realistically a company can do. You cannot grow like exponentially your distribution network when you need to set up in the middle of rural Cambodia a new office. That's impossible. And one thing that is important to understand is we are seeing investors more interested in results and not process. We can be a bit damageable to the company because they are only focusing on achieving this specific milestone instead of trying to build a company that is really in good health. From the entrepreneurs, the situation is even more interesting because the moment that they think, okay, let's raise funds is usually too late because of the time frame I mentioned to you. they need to plan it in at least 1 year in advance. The second point is that they are not ready for it. They think they need money, but money to do what exactly, how, in which way. So they need to be supported to that. And one risk that they usually don't consider is the currency risk. So for Cambodia, of course, is in dollars, so it's okay. But when you deal in other currencies and you have end user financing that can go up to 4 years, how do you deal with that? So last slide, and I'm just going to focus on two recommendations that we have. The first one is lobbying, so that philanthropic money can be used for all as a facilitator for this economy. So as loan guarantee entrepreneurs with their reality, with their day-to-day problems, and the world of the investors. Some of them coming from faraway country, and having them both communicate sometimes can be tricky. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Cecile. I am a last mile distributor, so I like being